All right, welcoming into the Punch podcast, and the third time now, which I'm officially calling friend of the show, Eddie Hearn from Matchroom Boxing. Welcome.
So it's been a while. It's good to be back.
Look at this. And this time you're in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, not Brisbane, just after a jog, but still after the gym, I hear.
Yes. Sorry, I was a little bit late. I'm just trying to stay sane with all the traveling and get a few workouts in. And of course, massive show this Friday in Riyadh. And for you guys, of course, Justice Huni, Joseph Parker, not too far away as well. And AJ against Ngannou, massive show and looking forward to it.
I am excited for these shows that His Excellency has been putting on, because they're just phenomenal, and the size and the scope. And we saw the grand arrivals in the last 24 hours as well. So it's just it's at the scale of it feels like, especially for the heavyweights, which seems to be what he seems to target the most. Then it seems to be like it's almost back a little bit. I get a lot, really, isn't it? Like there's the wow about heavyweights, which I thought were lacking.
Yeah, I think just on the whole, you turn up, the infrastructure, the production, and the hospitality. The fighters love it here because of the way they're treated. Obviously, they're getting paid very well as well. But beyond that, His Excellency does have this vision for the sport, and he's a smart guy. Like, there's a real passion and a love for boxing, that he knows the game from the AJs all the way down to, there's a guy fighting on the card called Mark Chamberlain, who is a British champion that His Excellency identified as a fighter and was like, I want to see Mark Chamberlain. I'm like, how do you even know who Mark Chamberlain is? And his knowledge of the sport and his love for the sport, it really is deep. And, obviously they have the funds to put these mega fights on. And over the space of 3 months, you've got AJ Ngannou, Fury Usyk, and Bivol Beterbiev. So great for boxing, really, that we're finally seeing these fights that I guess have sometimes been eluding us.
And to get those guys together, which is good, is what you're talking about, which means you also see these fighters active, where it might be them versus someone else and so on. And then it could be years before you get, I guess, all four of them in the ring at some point. You know what I mean? So like even the main and the co-main, you look at that and it's all, they're both mains. Let's be honest.
Yeah. I mean, Parker against Zhang, brilliant fight. Even Justice against Lorena, I mean, that's an undercard fight here. I don't know, 4th or 5th fight down. And it's a really, really good fight. And he's giving those guys big opportunities, like for Justice particularly. What an opportunity to get in the mix. Because if you perform out here and he likes what he sees and, everybody on the ground like what they see, you're going to be back. You can't just base your career on Saudi Arabia, because it just doesn't work like that. But certainly the opportunities are there and the massive fights are there. And that's really, like I said to Mick Francis and the Tasman guys last night, Justice looks good and wins on Friday, and the heavyweight division are selected, which it probably will be in our 5v5 tournament with Queensbury. Justice is probably our pick. So if he wins on Friday, he could be fighting Dubois, he could be fighting Joyce. And all of a sudden, he's really well positioned to start thinking about a potential shot at an eliminator or a final eliminator for the world heavyweight title.
Yeah, it's awesome. And he does seem to have his favorites, and he just likes to just match make for what he'd like to sit there and watch. And I guess the beauty of you is you get to run all these fighters and sit ringside. And he's a guy that just I have a severe interest in. Like, I think it's very, what has he got? What's he saved in your phone as? Because that's what I feel. You get a text. Oh, it's his Excellency.
He's not his
name for him.
He's just Turkey. I mean, look, it's a massive opportunity for the sport and us as a company. But I do genuinely like him. Like, he is a really funny guy. He's very down to earth. And I never thought I'd actually say he's the most powerful man in boxing, because I always hoped that would be me. But I have no problem saying it's definitely him.
Yeah.
And he's bringing all these promoters together. He's bringing the sport together. And I think it needs that. When you've got two promotional companies, sometimes they don't get on. They've got different networks. The ego's too big. But when there's a guy in the middle that's doing individual deals with both and then bringing them together, it seems to be working much better. And of course, the money helps. Yeah. Like, that's not, I'm not going to tell fibs. Like, that is a major factor in bringing everyone together, but also making the fights. And good. If that's what it takes, great for boxing. Let's celebrate that.
Yeah, he's very on the money. He seems like the guy too that would just sneak a sneaky meme through all the time, or a little GIF reply. I reckon he's just got that
He loves it.
We
He
don't.
loves it. Yeah.
There you go. But he's putting on amazing fights. He's changing lives for some people. I mean, we saw Jai Opetia almost, well, he did. He was happy to give up his belt to go to Saudi Arabia, which he now gets to, I guess, fight for again, the same belt in a few months, which we'll get to. But let's just look at this main card because it is absolutely massive. Anthony Joshua, Francis Ngannou. I mean, it doesn't even feel like it's a crossover imposter. He seems like a heavyweight contender.
Yeah, and a scary guy. Like, I was standing next to Francis last night just thinking, my God, you are an absolute man mountain. But then so is AJ.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the fascinating things of the fight. I mean, you know, His Excellency calls it knockout chaos. That's the theme of the show. And it really is. Like two guys that can turn your lights off with one shot. And for AJ, definitely the favourite in the fight, definitely the better fighter, the better jab, the better everything. But Ngannou is just a guy that knows how to win. And he's a massive, massive man that can really punch. And he's not afraid to let his hands go and engage. So everything on paper says, I love AJ's chances in this fight, but you know it's one that you're going to sit there, bite your fingernails, watch through your fingers, and just hope that AJ can do a job and move on. But this guy, he's very scary. Very, very scary. And hopefully AJ can, you know, be aggressive enough, hurt him, and outclass him. And I think that's what he's got to do on Friday.
I think he's got the level of that confidence now, obviously after Otto Wallen especially, but like the last run with Hellenius, etc. I think he's sort of been on that. Maybe it's that. I think maybe he said it even a couple of years ago, just when he was just not really lighting it up, but he seems to be back into that confidence, which is obviously half the battle at that level. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think confidence is massive, particularly for him. Like, he's a smart guy and he's got to believe in his preparation. He's got to believe in the tactics. And I think Ben Davison's doing a good job on that. He's really got him believing in himself. He understands what he has to do in the fight. One of the challenges in this fight is you've only got 10 rounds of footage of Ngannou. It's better than none, which is what Fury had. But, you know, normally you'd be breaking down a fighter over the years. And Ben Davison and Lee Wiley, who are AJ's trainers, are very good at that part of the preparation. And AJ likes that as well. So definitely footage, but only 10 rounds. And they've got to use what they can to put the right game plan together. But he's definitely confident. He's definitely firing on all cylinders. And he's punching really hard. He's punching with venom. And I don't believe that Ngannou, as big as he is and as tough as he is, can stand up to that artillery and the accuracy of that artillery. And hopefully that will be, you know, one of the defining factors.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. Looking forward to it. I mean, Saudi doesn't really love Australian time, but hey, it's worth it. Great card, great location, and even better co-promoter. The other good thing about that is especially the main two cards, they're all fighting off confidence as well, because you've got, well, AJ, obviously, like we just spoke about, Ngannou, who didn't win versus Fury, but won versus Fury, I guess the people's champ. Zhang, two Joy Joses, and then Parker Wilder. Like, they're all on the up. There's one in there.
Good point. Good point. I mean, it's great to see guys going in for the confidence, and particularly the Parker Zhang fight. I think it's a brilliant fight. I mean, Joe looks like something out of 007. Let alone, you know, a fight. I mean, looks fantastic.
Yeah.
You know, we all know that Joe has, you know, sometimes his preparation's been a little bit up and down, but now seems to be so dialed in and switched on. Like, you know, what a massive win against Deontay Wilder. I think he beat Zhang. I do. You know, I think the Joyce victories for Zhang are a little bit flattering. He's a good fighter. He's a big guy. He's not that quick. Joyce makes you look quick, but he can punch, southpaw. I just think Joe, if he's got the right game plan, which I know he will do with Andy Lee, I just think he's fast enough and his engine's good enough. I think he can stop Zhang late in the fight. I think it'll be a really good fight, very dangerous. But if Joe's smart, he's in and out, and he uses his speed and his movement, I'm pretty sure he wins. And what a comeback from Joseph Parker. You know, after getting stopped by Joe Joyce himself, if he can beat Wilder and Zhang, who can deny him another shot at the world heavyweight title? You know, he's on a great run. And, you know, I know our guy, Justice Hooney, would love a shot at Joseph Parker if he can get through Lorena, he can get through Zhang, and maybe Justice gets one more big win. Like, that's a huge fight, New Zealand against Australia. And you know, I know Joe will be looking at the big names in the division and a shot at the world title, but that'd be a great fight.
Yeah, he's been on a bit of a heater. He packed out an arena here in Melbourne and finished that in a round. So I mean, he's been moving. And I guess the winner of the main events obviously iron off that undisputed. The rematch clauses mean nothing when you've got His Excellency in your corner. So let's see if we can twist a few arms on that one. I mean, contracts are good, but so's cash.
Yeah, I mean, our promise with AJ is really from him. Look, the winner of AJ against Ngannou will fight the winner of Fury against Usyk, and I really believe that. Like you said, great point. There are rematch clauses, but I think if AJ does a job on Ngannou and Fury beats Usyk, there is no way that His Excellency is not going to say, "I need that fight now." It's the biggest fight in the sport, one of the biggest in the history of boxing. So there's all kind of huge fights that can be made, and I'm confident he's the man to do it.
He seems to have taken a real shine to Jai Opetia as well, His Excellency. He was saying he loves him, doesn't he? He said he wants him out.
You know what it is? Mm-hmm. He actually watched his fight against Jordan Thompson.
Yeah.
Right? And was just like, we need that guy here. That's exactly what happened. And we were in Mexico for Jai's fight. For Justice's fight. And we received a call with Mick Francis to say, would Jai Opetia want to fight in Saudi? And I have to be honest with you, it was a blessing, the call, because we were a little bit stuck. The mandatory was getting called. Were we going to do a show in Australia? How are we going to make Jai big money? And the call came, and obviously made a huge amount of money against Ellis Zorro, which was an easy night's work for him. Now he's landed the Brady's fight again for life-changing money. And beyond that, His Excellency wants him to fight the winner of Bivol Beterbiev. So, you're talking about, I feel like that February fight, unfortunately he picked up a small injury. So was he going to make the fight? Probably not. But now it was a blessing really to move it to May 18, because it was a very fast turnaround. You think he boxed in London in November, he boxed in Saudi on December 23rd. Then he was supposed to fight on February the 17th in Saudi again. He's very, very active and training over Christmas. May 18th is a good date for Jai. And that's a tough fight against Bradis.
Absolutely.
But if he can win that fight, I see him having one more defense, hopefully a unification, and then hopefully the winner of Bivol Beterbiev. And after that, Jai Opetia is going to, be not just financially secure for him and his current family, but their families for generations and generations, which is exactly what you want to deliver for a fighter.
We grew up in a similar hood where he's just a little bit more successful. So same part of town. I just see him and go, you do you, and I'll chat to Eddie.
Well, I'm sure he'll be sharing with that hood, Yeah. So maybe a little holiday for you coming up.
Well, yeah, after the last fight when he said, I'm telling Eddie I want to fight in Gosford. And that's
I know.
And I'm like,
well, I'd love to do it. I think, look, it's very difficult not to take these opportunities, but we must also look to bring Jai home at some point. And that's important to him as well. So we'll speak to Mick and the team. First things first, let's deal with Bradis on May the 18th.
You'll be glad to know right opposite that venue, there was a filthy nightclub. It's now closed down. So there's no, I know, Club Troppo back in the day. Oh, Eddie.
That sounds unbelievable.
It was wild. All the Big Brother D's, they went there and did their nights. Oh, it was huge. Another story. But look, big news today, and some say breaking. I'd like to know if this is the first time you've spoken on it. Have you mentioned anything to anyone on film yet about Skye Nicolson?
No, this is the first interview on that. My first interview today.
Righto, let's go through this. Skye Nicolson will fight for a world title in April, Las Vegas. Sarah Mahfood, WBC title. Congratulations on getting her there.
Yeah, it's massive. I mean, I've got to take my hat off to Skye. It's about nearly a year ago now. She was like, I want to fight Amanda Serrano.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, where's that come from? She goes, I know I can beat her. I've got the style to do it. And Skye is massively underrated. I think because of the style, sometimes people look at Skye and go, oh, is she for real? When you look at her amateur pedigree, what she achieved, she had 150 amateur fights. She's been boxing since like her early teens, her whole life. And of course, her family is engrossed in the sport of boxing. And, you know, Commonwealth Games gold medalist, world amateur bronze medalist, Olympian. She achieved nearly everything in the amateur code. And then she's getting better and better. She's getting stronger and stronger. She got her first stoppage last time out. Michaela Meyer couldn't do that to Lucy Wildheart, 2 divisions above where Skye fought her. And when she got and beat the interim world champion and got into the mandatory position, she said to me, I'm telling you now, Amanda Serrano won't fight me. I'm like, she will. Like, she's boxed Katie Taylor. She went, she won't. Like, I think they know I've got the style to beat her. And I was just like, okay, we'll see. Anyway, the mandatory got called and Amanda Serrano vacated the title. I was like, wow, you're right. She said, I told you. So when she stopped Lucy Wildheart on that Katie Taylor card, the mandatory got called. Skye against the next fighter in the rankings, which is Sarah Mahfood. Now, in BoxRec, which is like the Bible of boxing rankings, you've got Amanda Serrano #1 and you've got Sarah Mahfood #2. So she's the second best fighter in the division. And Skye again says no problem at all. You know, we were looking at possibly trying to bring that fight to Australia. Mahfood wanted it in neutral territory. She wanted, as all fighters do, the opportunity to fight in Las Vegas. It was a great place for Skye to fight as well. And, you know, April 6th, what a chance for Skye Nicolson. WBC, you know, probably the most prestigious belt in the sport. She's got a chance to be a real star. You talk about Katie Taylor, you talk about Amanda Serrano, you talk about Clarissa Shields. You know, Skye has got the chance to start joining the conversation to be in that club. And the way she's progressing, the way she's getting more aggressive in her fights, if she can win that belt against Mahfood and do a job on her, that's a massive statement. And, you know, she's got the benefit and the blessing of being a real global star. She's got a big following in the UK. She's got a big following in America as well. Obviously, she's got a following in Australia. And we hope this will be the catalyst to bring Skye Nicolson home as a world champion, because I really want to see her headlining, you know, on the Gold Coast, in Brisbane, maybe in Melbourne. I don't know. But you've got all these big world championship fights now. You're talking about someone that, in my opinion, has got all the attributes to be a real star. You know, she speaks great. She's a great ambassador for the sport. She's a role model. She's becoming a more exciting fighter, and she's really, really good.
Yeah.
So, yeah, April 6th, it's a massive chance for her.
It's funny you ask about when is she coming home, because just before we started this interview, I actually texted her and she wrote back going, thanks about the world title. And I said, just about to chat to Eddie, any questions for him? And she did write one, and that was, when are we getting the big Skye B Nick homecoming? So first Vegas, and is that when it is?
Yeah, we nearly did for this one, actually. You know, Chrissy, who we work with, you know, was working hard, and just a time thing. You know, there's been a lot of interest from various different governments, you know, regional governments, to bring world championship boxing to Australia. And I think when you look at women's sport, you know, you look at the success of the Women's World Cup there.
Yeah.
Why not bring Australia's, you know, potentially, if she wins on April 6th, Australia's biggest female star back home as a world champion? And, you know, like I said, there's no one better to do it, in my opinion, if she wins that world title, because she's chasing down Amanda Serrano. And if she wins that world title, she's going to be calling out Amanda Serrano for the undisputed fight. That is a fight I would love to do, you know, particularly in Brisbane or on the Gold Coast. Serrano is a huge name. And I really think that after this fight, if and I believe when she wins in Las Vegas, you'll see Skye Nicholson's defense in Saudi Arabia, potentially, against Raven Chapman on the 5x5. That could be the mandatory challenger. And if not, we'd love to bring that fight to Australia. So the global tour continues. And, you know, like I said, it's an Australian living in the UK. She's got the ability to kind of box everywhere, because there's no specific home, really, because of where she lives and where she trains and stuff like that. So she's had a great run fighting around the world, and it's helped her profile. And Australia is a must do for Skye Nicolson in 2024.
Well, last time we spoke too, you were talking about obviously potentially doing a whole run of Matchroom shows. We got the one, Pyro Jarvis. Since then, nothing. You have been busy with Saudi Arabia and everywhere else, flying around, doing zip zap and whatever else. But are we going to get a few more? Obviously this one, but are we going to get any consistency or just the one off?
Yeah, definitely a plan for us. I mean, I was disappointed not to do more as of yet. But you know what I don't want to do? I feel like in Australia, all it is really is pay-per-view. Yeah. Like, and I think we need to build the sport in Australia. It's frustrating because you've got so many great fighters in Australia now. I mean, you've got Jai, you've got Justice, you've got Skye Nicolson, you've got Liam Parra. You know, you got other guys who are ready to step into big fights, whether that's Dempsey McKean. You know, you've got Ebony Bridges. I know she lost her world title, but she's going to be back in big fights as well. You know, you've got so many fighters from Australia. Obviously, you've got Tim Tszyu in a massive fight on March the 30th. You know, you've got Liam Wilson. You've got so I don't like the fact that it's always behind a pay-per-view paywall. And broadcasters are happy for us to come in and do pay-per-view events in Australia, but I need 4 to 6 non-pay-per-view cards a year. And to do that, you really need that investment at the same time from the local governments. And you're seeing that for the Kambosos fight, you've seen that for the Tim Tszyu fight, and hopefully now they'll make an investment in women's sport as well through Skye Nicolson, but also, you know, guys like Liam Parra, who are really ready. I mean, he may fight Subriel Matias for the world title in June, but he's ready for a big homecoming fight now as well. And I just want to make sure that we can make the audience as big as possible, because when I look back at like Jai's win against Bradis, that was on pay-per-view. How many buys did it do? I don't know. Say 10,000. 10,000 people got to witness one of the great wins from an Australian sportsman in the history of the sport. Like, Jai broke his jaw in 2 places and fought his way against the best in the division to become world champion. That's a fight that should have been free to air and watched by the entire nation. Jai shouldn't be allowed to walk out of his house without getting mobbed for being a hero for Australian sport.
Oh, I remember you had that issue with Justice Hooney, Joe Goodall. Do you remember when you came out and you went to that before? You were like, why are people paying for this?
I know. Yeah. But that's not a pay-per-view fight.
Yeah, agreed.
But the broadcasters are just used to that model now.
Yeah.
But it's no good for the sport because it's limiting the audience. And, you know, people like No Limit and Tasman and Angelo, and they haven't got a choice because that's the only way to financially do the shows. But I would like boxing to be big enough in a place in Australia where a broadcaster goes, no, actually, this is the big sport in Australia. But people say, oh, the sport's not big enough to do those rights deals. Yeah, because it's constantly behind a pay-per-view paywall. So, like Tim Tszyu, what a great fighter. And his pay-per-view numbers, obviously, they're good. But so what if 50, 60, 70,000 people are watching Tim Tszyu? He should be a national star. And he is a big star, but he should be much, much bigger, you know? So it's frustrating. I keep banging on the doors of these broadcasters to try and make the investment in regular fight nights that aren't just costing you, I don't know, 60, 70, 80 Aussie dollars to watch. Because you've got the talent pool there now, especially with, you know, like I said, with Skye and Liam and young, like Justice as well. He wins on Friday night. He's going to be in big fights in the heavyweight division. And, you know, I really feel like he's a fighter in Jai that the country can really get behind.
Yeah, I think the Justice's inactivity has probably been his own thing. So if he can get in there more, avoid some injury and do the numbers like you said, he can. He's looking super fit. His grand arrival, he looked sharp.
Looks good, really good. Looks, you know, you can see it in his face, in his physique. I think he's ready to make a statement this weekend.
I agree with you, and I believe your entire card will. What happened? I saw on the poster, I'm not sure if this has come up, the Madronov-Kurbanov super welterweight. Is that on there? It's not on BoxRec, but it was on.
It's on. It's on. Yeah. I know there was some paperwork that was needed by the commission, all being dealt with. So yeah, I tell you, that's interesting. You brought that up because it's a sleeper on the card. I mean, Israel Madrimov, who is a beast, you know, Uzbekistan guy that's been widely avoided, and Kurbanov, the Russian, who's an absolute animal as well. That fight is going to be a thriller. The WBA super welterweight world title is for the regular title because you've got Charlo there, but basically Charlo's going to be evaporating those belts. So this is really for a piece of the world championship. So a potential opponent for Tim Tszyu as well, a unification in coming up soon.
That's why the Aussies are looking to see if that fight's on the card or not, because we're
Yeah,
just trying to work out the playbook. Should Terence Crawford not fight him? Do you think that'll
yeah,
happen?
absolutely.
Do you reckon he signs that?
Yeah,
I think he does too.
yeah. I mean, I think when I go back to the investment from the government in Australia, you have seen that before for Pacquiao Horn, even for Kambosos against Haney and now Lomachenko. And if you can get that level of investment for a Crawford fight, which you certainly would, that I think that fight's makeable. Yeah. I mean, I think Tim's got to beat Thurman, which I expect him to do. I'm pretty sure he'll stop Keith Thurman. And then why not make Tim against Crawford? It's a great fight. Tim can compete with anyone, I think. I mean, I don't think he beats Crawford, but he's a big, strong boy. And I think he's going to be in a lot of great fights.
And if I don't know if you saw the WBO ring they gave Terence Crawford the other day, but it's got some freaking diamonds in it, so he owes them. He'll be signing something for another one of those, let me tell you. That looked good.
Exactly.
Well, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is where you'll see this man with a whole card of fighters: Anthony Joshua, Francis Ngannou, Parker Zhang, Justice Huni, a ton of others. David Nika, sorry, we should probably give that one as well. I saw him on there as well. That probably come through Joe Parker as well. But look, there's a whole bunch of stars there. You can get it worldwide on DAZN wherever you are. So enjoy it. And again, Eddie Hearn, thank you for stopping by the Punch Podcast. It's always great to chat to you. I mean, you could always say how long we get to chat to you for, but shit, you could times that by 4 every time. You're on a heater today, so
no worries, mate. Always good to talk to you, and we'll catch up again soon.